you're talking about your approach to learning and to continuous learning. And I mean, given how our industry is moving so quickly, I think it's easy for people to occasionally feel overwhelmed by the challenge of learning and keeping up. What's your strategy for managing that?
So it's what I will talk about in the presentation as well. Learning needs to be part of your lifestyle. It's not something you compartmentalize. And I think it becomes a challenge when it's something else that you have to do before you get on with the rest of your life. It becomes a challenge when it's not fun. When it's not rewarding in itself, that it is a means to some other end and you're trying to get through it quickly, and then it becomes exhausting, and then it becomes not fun, and then you start thinking of it as a chore, and that's when you start becoming jaded by learning itself.
Do you think different people have different aptitudes in the way that they learn and should maybe look to adopt different learning practices to support that? But also, do you think that there are some generic learning practices that apply to everyone?
Different people do have different aptitudes, but I don't think it's as polarizing as some studies would say. My view is that just because you like looking at diagrams doesn't mean that you should only be looking at visual type of learning, or that if you like to discuss things or hear things that you should only be looking at auditory. I think you should. There is value in using different perspectives to learn the same thing, and not narrow yourself to one particular area. It's good to understand what different means of learning that are available and how they fit you, and also what ways of learning you actually enjoy. Some people are more social, extrovert type people especially. They will enjoy learning in communities, in discussions and so on. Others are more introvert and they may enjoy kind of more kind of self-learning. However, there is no kind of one thing that fits a person. I think they should try different aspects, different ways of learning, and use that variety to learn deeper.
What do you think is the best approach to continuous learning? And by that I mean being able to set a manageable, consistent pace in your learning rather than sort of in fits and starts.
So, as I said earlier, learning needs to be part of your lifestyle. It needs to be incorporated into your lifestyle. And the main thing is that you need to form habits around learning. So once it's part of your habit, it's part of your daily routine, it becomes much easier to. You set the time for your learning. You find a time that once you create that habit, it's actually quite difficult to not have the time. So, for example, in the morning, I spend about an hour to just go through some of my reading lists that I may have accumulated over Twitter or various other means. And I know if I don't do that, I tend to have a bit of a bad day because I miss it during the day. Purely because it's become a habit. It's the time for me to relax and effectively do things that are not to do with the daily kind of work and daily kind of routine of running a company.
How important do you think it is to have a strategic approach to your learning? Do you believe in trying to draft a learning itinerary, and if so, how far ahead would you plan?
Learning, how important is learning? I think is learning in itself, if you take the wider sense, is part of our survival. So it's as important as us trying to survive. It's also part of our professional success. But I think it's more than that. I think it's part of living a happy life. So if you get stuck in a rut and you're not growing and your mind is not growing, I think you end up becoming a bit unhappy. So I think it's amazingly important that you have a strategy in life to learning, because it doesn't matter what you do. It's probably one of the most important things that you can actually have some sort of a strategy towards. What was the second part of the question?
How far ahead would you plan on the itinerary?
I wouldn't plan. So this is one of the things I will talk about in my talk as well, is that actually setting targets is not the right way to go about it, because targets are extrinsic motivators. You need to motivate yourself intrinsically, and for that you need to have some goals, but you shouldn't have a specific plan, and you shouldn't have kind of deadlines and so on. I think the plan should go as far as a direction that I want to go into, and a routine and a habit that I want to form.
Just to talk a little bit more just about software craftsmanship, I wanted to get you maybe just to talk about your involvement with it. When did you first come across software craftsmanship?
It was basically when we started the software craftsmanship community. David Green and Sandro had started it, and to run the first meeting, I was involved. I think that was roughly the time, and Sandro had already read the kind of the clean code book by Uncle Bob, and I read it, and that was absolutely amazing. And so that was the start, I think.
What does software craftsmanship mean to you, both professionally and personally?
Professionally, I think there is no dichotomy. For me, my profession is part of my person. What does it mean to me? It's about my desire to do a job well, and it's about finding that internal motivation to hone my skills, to learn, to help others learn and learn from others, and to create, to imagine, to create new things.
And 10 years on, given that it's the 10th anniversary of software craftsmanship, what do you see for the future?
What do I see for the future of craftsmanship or software?
Software craftsmanship.
It's a tough question. I would hope that we are kind of better integrated with the kind of wider XP community. I think that's kind of craftsmanship is an extension of that, and I think I would like the craftsmanship movement to become part of the kind of other kind of the DevOps side of things, the Agile movement and XP and so on, all these communities to pull together more and to help each other and to achieve the objectives that I think are exactly the same.
And just lastly, what inspired you to give what's the talk tomorrow, and what are you hoping that people will take away from it?
So I usually do one talk a year, and I would normally do it only once, although this one I've done once before. The reason I created the talk was more for myself. I normally talk about the subject that I wish to learn deeper. It's one of the techniques I use, is to learn, is to, if you want to really learn something, you should try to teach it. So I think I've already got what I wanted to achieve from it. And I was saying to someone else earlier, I have already been re-energized by my own talk, that my learning habits, which were kind of waning a bit, I am now more excited to learn. I'm more excited to look at learning in a holistic way. I'm more excited to, again, explore new areas, new perspectives. So it's definitely energized me during this research that I was doing for the talk. My only hope is that I can transfer some of that energy to the 300 people tomorrow.